Okay, great. So hello, everyone. We hope you're all doing fine and welcome to our second JEE alumni success story. As usual, I will start with a brief introduction to the ones who don't know us yet. I'm Elizabeth Bigon, the current Secretary General of JEUR Enterprises Europe for the term 2019-2020. The organization was formerly known as JEE, Junior Association for Development in Europe, and founded by 6 countries in 1992, aiming to foster entrepreneurship among students since 1967. With 3 other members of the JEUR Enterprises Executive Board, we took a gap year in our studies to live and work together full-time to co-represent, integrate, and support a network of 30,000 students in 14 European countries. If you don't know yet the JEE concept, a junior enterprise is a non-profit organization formed and managed exclusively by university students, which provides services for companies, institutions, and individuals. They are similar to real companies with the main goal of enhancing the learning of their members through practical experiences. As European youth NGOs, our mission is to boost the development of this junior enterprise network, empowering students capable and committed to generate a relevant impact at 3 levels. In academia, by complementing education with an entrepreneurial approach, the business world by delivering high-quality talent and projects to the market, and in society, enhancing the next generation of leaders. One of the goals from our network strategy is to enhance the junior entrepreneurs experience so we can increase our visibility towards the market, acquiring more project opportunities. And this is one of the reasons why we decided to launch the success stories some years ago. These alumni are former junior entrepreneurs, and they can easily relate to the experience we're going through in the academic world. Also, they inspire us thanks to their meaningful stories and advice to bridge us even closer to the business world. We are glad to welcome you in this live session to hear more about our alumni success stories. And this is a new format we tried to implement this year to make it more interactive, and we hope you will enjoy it. I will now let the floor to our JEE alumni manager, Margarida Bento, who is working remotely for us from Portugal since the beginning of the year to coordinate this program. I am letting now you introducing our second alumni, Adriana, from this series of success stories interview. Margarida, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for your words. Hello, Adriana. Welcome to JEE Success Stories 2020. It is a pleasure to have you here today. So thank you for accepting this challenge. It is really important for us to have you here. And also welcome to all of you that are here today. I already saw some messages. It is really important to have your presence because these sessions are made for you and by you. So I hope you really enjoy the sessions, and I hope you feel totally free to give us some feedback because it is the main way to improve our sessions. Okay, let's start, Adriana.
So first, thank you for having me. It's great to have an invitation from you guys, so I'm very happy to talk to you today.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce Adriana. I'm going to share with you a presentation about her. So Adriana, she was the president of JEUR Enterprises Europe between 2013 and 2014. She experienced all the layers of the network by starting out as a junior entrepreneur in a newly formed junior enterprise from Romania, and then she continued as vice president and international manager of the former Confederation JEE Romania. And then she worked in the European headquarters in Brussels. She experienced many assignments and areas while working in the network, such as network development, international relations, project management, alumni management, and many others. Currently, she is working as operations manager and business process expert in Procter & Gamble and leveraging many of the skills she learned in the network, such as stakeholder management, crisis management, leading projects, team working, and a lot of more. But most importantly, working with an entrepreneurial mindset. She strongly believes that even if you have your own business you work in a big corporation, the key to success is turning ideas into action by using the entrepreneurial mindset and skills acquired as a junior entrepreneur. She is a certified project management professional by PMY and plans to continue to build expertise and deliver value-added projects for the companies she works with. Okay, Adriana, let's start.
Sure, let's go. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay. So I'm going to remind you about the structure of the session. First we are going to have an interview, and during this part we are going to talk about our experience in the network, our current position, and our future perspectives. Then we are going to have tips and tricks part, where Adriana is going to provide us some tips and some tricks related with crisis management. She's also going to provide us some advice she's going to provide some advice for junior entrepreneurs, and also share what is a good alumni of the network. And finally, you are going to have some time to ask some questions that might appear during the interview, or some curiosities that you want to know about Adriana. Okay? Okay, so the first part of our interview is related with the experience in the network. Okay, the first question that we have here for you is, how did you grow inside the network? Tell us a little bit about your experience, please.
Okay, so this happened a while ago. Like, I think I finished my work in the network 6 years ago. But it was truly an enjoyable experience, and I can say that, like, even 6 years later, I think it was a great experience and one of the best choices I've made for myself, personally and professionally. And I think in the network, of course, you grow two ways. You enhance your hard skills, like all the skills related to, you know, how you do stuff, professional processes, and the work itself. But I think you have a huge benefit when it comes to the soft skills, because it really helps you know how to work with people. You interact with many cultures. You gain more confidence in yourself because you go through a lot of tough situations. Even if you're in a junior enterprise or confederation or the European network, like, shit is going to happen anytime. And you know, we as people, when we overcome adversity after adversity, we actually become better at dealing with it, right? And we start to have more confidence in what we can do. We see that our limits are more farther away than we thought, because I'm sure many of us went into a junior enterprise and we said, oh, I'll never be able to do that, or I will never be able to handle that. And then you go, you work in your junior enterprise, and you know, you see you can actually do it, and that builds you up as a person. So I really think that this part about empowering people, about teaching people how to have an entrepreneurial mindset is a real gain.
So basically, this experience, it was a key experience for you to develop your confidence, right?
Confidence, working with people. I mean, you do need to have a bit of confidence to start doing it, right? Because, I mean, maybe you're going to a junior enterprise, but you don't apply in your national board, or you don't apply in JEE Expo if you don't have some confidence, because you also need that. But it definitely helps to see that you can always do better. No matter what happens, you can overcome adversity. And to see that, you know, each day you're becoming a better person and a better professional.
Yeah. So this experience, I can see that it influenced you in a certain part. You think it was really important to influence you in choosing your career path?
So here I'm a very good example, because, and here I'm going to refer mostly to my JEur in Brussels, because in my junior enterprise and in my national confederation, I was back in Romania then, right? And I was working in marketing. So I was doing marketing full time, that was my profession. And then I came to Brussels, and I wanted to do other things. So I didn't have the communications department. It was with someone else. And I did a lot of project management in Brussels, because when you're part of the Expo, a lot of your work is to carry out the annual plan, to see how it fits with the strategy, and to work more in the management part. So you don't only have a small piece, but you need to run several projects, see how they fit together and all that. And I liked working in project management so much that after I came back from Brussels, I actually started to work in project management, and it was the complete turning point for my career. I went from being a marketer to doing project management, operations management. I got my PMP certification. So basically everything that I'm doing today was a result of the turning point back when I went to Brussels. So I'm a really good example for this specific question.
That's true. Basically, I think that junior entrepreneurs are faced with challenges every day. So can you give us some examples about some challenges you faced during your journey as junior entrepreneur?
There were many, so I'm sure everyone can relate to that. Maybe Elizabeth even more, because she's at the end of her year in the Expo, and that was the most challenging. I don't even know what to pick, to be honest. So we had different type of challenges. We had like, I know, the financial challenge, let's say, because when you work in Brussels, and when you work in your junior enterprise or confederations and in Brussels, you have like full power. You can make it or break it. Like if you really fuck up, you can really end an organization. That can really happen. And that is even more important when you work in Brussels and you need to pay rent and you have some fixed costs. Because it's like when you're in your junior enterprise and you don't have money, it's like, you can survive, the university helps you, you work from someone's house, you can manage. But when you're in Brussels, you actually have to pay rent and you have to pay utilities and you have to pay for a load of other stuff. So basically, if you really need to, you really have challenges around that, and you need to make sure that you're doing a good job and you're managing to keep the headquarters open. And there are many challenges related to that, like getting partnerships, getting grants, then organizing high-scale events, like organizing winter conference is always difficult because you have people coming from all over the world. And you want to offer them a good event, right? At least that's how it was in the past, because of course we also have JEUs, but we always tried to bring more people to the winter conference from our sister networks. And definitely it's challenging to work with people. I mean, you work with people with a totally different mindset than you have. Different cultures, even though now with globalization, maybe this is not so pregnant, but it's like people you've never met before, that have their values, they have their own way of doing things. And you basically need to find a common ground and the common values and how to work with these people in order to, have the best experience for yourself and for the network as well. And here is not only the Expo, you're working with the General Assembly, you're working with many people from all over the world.
Yeah, so basically it's a big challenge trying to balance all these aspects, right?
Of course.
Okay, so one of the first questions that I asked you, it was related with this question. So can you sum up which are the skills that you consider that are the main ones that you gain thanks to your experience as a junior entrepreneur?
I think the most important ones. So of course, I can put here a full list of, project management, communication, working with people. It's like I can put here a list of, 20 skills on the top of my mind. But I think what's most important is the entrepreneurial mindset that you get while being in the network. And I know we're going to talk, probably I'm going to talk more about it on the questions that you have about my current assignment. But what I can tell you is that this is a clear differentiator between junior entrepreneurs and the rest of the people. because many people expect to be told what to do at every step, maybe. But when you're a junior entrepreneur, you're used to just deal with it. Like, no matter how much it sucks, no matter how difficult it is, you're used to face it head on and to deal with it at the best of your ability. And I think this kind of entrepreneurial and very active attitude, like not letting things happen to you, but trying to influence and to control the things happening to you and how you react to them. I think this is the main thing that you gain while in the network.
Yeah. I really agree with you related with this question. Now the next question that I have for you, it's a little bit more emotional.
So yeah, it's a super difficult one. Like, you guys should be forbidden to ask this question.
I would like you to share with us what is the best memory from your entrepreneur journey.
This is like asking someone to choose between his parents or his friends, or like, who's your best friend out of. It's super tough, but I don't know. I can definitely say I have many. I don't know, many emotional moments as well. I think one of the best memories was JEUS, because in my year, instead of summer meeting, we had JEUS in Geneva. And it was also the end of our term, and it was super emotional. I remember I was crying when giving my closing speech. So that was super embarrassing as well. But what happened is that I started crying, and my team started crying, and all of us started crying in front of everyone who attended the event. But it was, touching in a way. I mean, embarrassing and super nice at the same time. But it was really like our moment, after the full year, like this realizing that, we did it, and, like everything is well, and it was an incredible journey. And a lot of cool things happened there. I mean, now I know you have the global organization, global council. I'm sorry if I'm not very good with names. Like, sometimes you lose track over time. But it's like in just 2014, and before that, we actually built the first international strategy. And in just 2014, we had the first global forum, and we had the first JEUD also in 2014. So it's like, it's a super nice memory to see. Then we started with a dream. We didn't know, if it's gonna work. And we ran these projects, and, comparing to today and seeing they're still alive, and, they're even better than we imagined they could be. That's a great memory for sure.
Yeah. I understand. It's this kind of. I think that events are one of the most important part of our network, because I think our emotional level gets higher in this type of circumstances. Yeah, but thank you for your sharing.
And it's also the people. I mean, I don't want you guys to think it's only the big stuff. Like, not only JEUS, but we were in a different headquarters than we're now, and we had like a living room with some couches and a projector. And it's like, we always remember, all those Saturdays when we sat on the couches, had chips, and had Lord of the Ring marathons. So it's like, those are definitely also part of the experience. And with my team right now, it's like, we're still, we discovered Netflix party right now. So we had another Lord of the Rings marathon. So it's also those kind of small things that you do with people, and, they just stay with you. And we're still in touch and, having vacations together. So it's definitely, not only the glamorous part, the events, is definitely also like the daily life, and, the crappy jokes of the people, and, your daily life with each other. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, so basically, probably you can say that the best memory that you can have are related with people. It's not about
for sure
the thing, but the people that you share the experiences, right?
And what you manage to do together with all those people, because all the results that you have, all those projects, all the events, it's a result of what you manage to do with the people you are with.
Okay, so right now we finished the first part of the interview. Now we are going through your current position, okay? So I think that a lot of current entrepreneurs have this question like, what are the main differences for you between academia and the business world?
I think it's the same, is the reason why junior enterprises exist. Like, it's really clear for everyone that we have a gap between what education has to, what academia has to offer and what the market needs. So that gap clearly exists. And the big difference is exactly what we gain in a junior enterprise and all the skills that we previously talked about. And the experience in actually doing things, because it's one thing to learn about something, it's another thing to do it in practice. So if you go through the junior enterprise experience, you already have practice experience in doing many things. You don't just have a theoretical concept. And just to give you an example, even the learning model that we have in P&G, in Procter & Gamble, basically we have the same learning model. So we say that when you want to learn something, 70% is the practice, 20% is what you learn from other people, and 10% are, trainings and books and this part. So it's like even a private corporation reached the same insights that we have in our network. So I definitely think the practice is the key.
Okay, this question here, how many job interviews did you have and what were they like in both positions? I think it is really important. How do you feel like when you enter in the business role, and how do you feel right now? If you can share with us.
Yeah, so here I can give you an answer from both perspectives, because I can talk about my experience when I was trying to get some jobs and my experience when I was trying to recruit some people, so also as a recruitment manager. So when I went to job interviews after my JEE experience, I think the toughest thing was still try to make those people understand, like get over the barrier of people thinking, oh my God, students cannot do the things that they do in junior enterprise. So even if I had like black and white, I did this and this, and these were the results, and they were true results. Like for some employers, it was really tough to comprehend that this reality exists. So I think that's always a challenge, and people might be skeptical about it. So that is why I think that all the work JEur is doing in terms of public affairs, private corporation, trying to get the word out there, and making people learn about the junior enterprise concept. I think it's key to make this barrier easier and easier to break through, because as many people they know, and as many times as this is mentioned and supported by public affairs, governments, institutions, all of that, the easier is going to get for people. And I think that was the most tough part, and it was also, I was super scared to go into a corporation. I ended up in a corporation anyway. But I was super scared because I was coming from this very entrepreneurial, dynamic environment where I had to work my ass off and I could take decisions. And when you're a junior enterprise or at any level in the network, you have decision power and you're used to make things happen and to have the power to make things happen. But in a corporation, sometimes it's hard to get to that power, right? And you don't want to end up behind the desk and be a tiny wheel out of a big mechanism. I think this is a fear that many people have. But I was very lucky because I went into project management and operations management. And operations management basically means fixing stuff that gets broken on a daily basis. So I'm actually doing crisis management on a daily basis. And that didn't get boring, just tiring, but it's like I was happy I didn't get bored. But my advice is be careful what you wish for, because I also wanted to get bored at some point, to be honest. I'm like, God, please give me a boring day, let nothing happen today. So I was quite lucky from this point of view. And when I was trying to recruit people, again, you can really see a big difference between people that have been in the network and people that weren't, like in terms of how they approached the interview, the questions or lack of questions that they had, the way they talked about themselves, the way they perceived the results. It's like, some of them are like, I did 10% of what a junior entrepreneur does, but it's like, I'm so awesome for doing this 10%. So I think, junior entrepreneurs are a bit more aware of what is needed. They can ask the right questions, and they know what they're looking for, because you already have some experience, and you kind of get an idea of what you want to do in the future, what do you not want to do, and what kind of environment do you want to work in. Just as an idea, I went to a job interview where I knew from the first 5 seconds I didn't want to work there, because the people, I still remember 3 ladies came to interview me, and they looked so tired. Like, you could really see they were tired. And I was like, oh my God, I really don't want to work here. I mean, these people look super tired and unhappy. No, it's like, whatever happens. I think they even gave me a job offer in the end, but I said no. And it's like, if you don't have this kind of real world experience of working in a junior enterprise, maybe you don't pick up on these cues.
Yeah, I understand. So junior entrepreneur experience, in fact, give you some feedback and some awareness about how do you understand where you want to work and where you don't want to work, right?
Yeah.
The next question that I have here is really related with what you were saying. So basically, your days are usually difficult, right? So
yeah.
So how would you describe? Like, try to find a balance between a tough work day and an easy one. So if you can share with us examples, it will be really nice.
Of course. So I was saying, right now I work in operations as operations manager and business process expert. So the kind of crisis, one crisis I could deal with in my workday would be like, I work in the master data department. I'm not going to go into details, but let's say that we have a truck stuck at the border and it cannot pass the border from a country to another because it doesn't have the right papers, let's say. The right papers for that truck to pass the border happen through a very complicated IT process. And something, got broke in that process, and I basically need to fix it. And, it's like each hour while this issue persists means money for the company. So I need to fix it as soon as possible so the company loses the least money possible. It's not something, we can afford to, let's just do it later. But I think a balance between a tough work day and an easy day would be to have a good balance between these kind of reactive situations. And I mean, it does happen. It's like, I'm not saying 8 hours per day, I'm only doing this, but what you're looking for is a balance between these things that you need to do to ensure no business disruption, and the time that you need to do deep work in order to create some projects or some products that are going to give some benefits that you can scale up to the whole business. So that time where you invest some deep work into building a new tool, and that tool is going to save you this much time and money in the future when you're going to use it. So I think this is a challenge, I think, for everyone in the job, to balance the reactive work, you reacting to stuff that's happening, and you doing proactive work, like things that you do to improve something that already exists and it's working, but you're doing this work to make it better.
So related with improving work, we know that you work in a big company. Have you been able to change some processes for your company? Can you give us some examples of something more proactive that you did in your company?
So I can't give like many details about it, but I think asking yourself questions and improving processes, all types of processes, like are we recruiting people in the right way? Are we managing our knowledge in the right way? Like, are we making sure that, after we went through a tough situation, we're seeing what lessons we learned from there and we implement them in the next time? Are we making sure that we streamline our processes in order to get the most value? You'd be surprised on how many legacy processes or steps you can find in companies. Like, we're doing a thing because we've always done it that way. And, that's how it worked since 5 years ago. And, nobody questions it. And coming with a fresh eye and with this experience and asking the questions like, why do we do that? Why do we do it that way? Could we do it another way? It's going to result like this has helped me improve like many processes in the companies I've worked with, and ultimately helped me, like focus my work in the right place. So I think this kind of approach is definitely going to help when going to a job, and of course it's going to be, you're going to be appreciated for bringing it forward.
Can you give us some examples of a mistake that you learned from in your career? Because it's sometimes it can happen to everyone, right?
Of course, I mean, we'll make all types of mistakes. So I think the biggest mistake I did was burnout, like knowing when to stop. And I think this is true for many junior entrepreneurs. Like, we're so used to doing and being active and delivering that we really don't realize that at some point we need to stop. We really need to, like stop working 10 hours per day, take care of our health and stuff like this. And I think, because burnout is at the end of the day a mistake, because you're pushing yourself a lot. You're doing more than you can or you should, and at some point you realize that, it's like you're so tired that you can't even do anything. So you go from 1,000% per day to 10% per day, when ideally you'd want to have a bit of balance into that, right? Because if you're going to give your 1,000% every day, but then you get so burned out and so tired that you get sick 2 weeks before organizing winter conference. Let's say you're the project manager and you work a lot, and 2 weeks before winter conference, you're going to crash and you're not going to be able to do anything because you've worked too much. This is not going to be good for the team, for the event. It's like you're kind of not achieving what you wanted to, and you're going to put a lot of things and a lot of people in a difficult position. So watching yourself in terms of having a good balance between work and all the other things that give you energy, I think it's definitely a thing to consider.
So related with this, you think related with employer value proposition, like the balance between professional and personal side, it is really important for you. For example,
It's super important, and even in Procter and Gamble, we have the company has activities to help employees have a better work-life balance. So even in the corporate environment, it's being recognized as a challenge, and the company tries to, create programs to help people deal with it.
Yeah. So for you, related with employer value proposition, this is the main factor that you consider, like the balance, or do you have others that you consider really important too?
You mean in me and my relationship with my company, or?
In general, for you, which are the things that you most value in a company?
When working in a company, I think I definitely value the way they approach people and working with people. Because when it comes to the work itself, I mean, in any company you are in, you're going to need to work some long hours at some point. You're not, it's like, it's not going to be easy. The processes might not be the best. You might not have the best resources. So when it comes to this non-human part, it's like anything can happen and you can accept many things. But when it comes to, I think most people appreciate how they're being treated and what's the work environment and the organizational culture. So you might work long hours and for 6 months maybe because you're running a big project. But you want to see that the company cares about it, you want to see that they acknowledge it, you want them to see supporting you to do your best instead of pushing you over and over again to do better things. So I think this genuine care about how your employees are feeling, I think this is what I'm interested most in any company, saying that people care about people.
Thank you for your answer. It was really interesting to see how you see companies and the things that you value the most. Now, oh sorry, we are going to the next part. We are going to discuss about your future perspectives. Okay, so the first question that we have here for you is related with what are you planning to do in the next few years?
I already have like a career path for the next years. I know I want to start working more on how to call it, like in a non-jargon way, because if I tell you what's in the company, it's not going to make a lot of sense. So I want to focus more on building stuff, like move from the operational part to work mostly on projects that are building things, like building new solutions, building new tools that are going to help with the business objectives. So basically, I want to focus most on doing things that is going to bring added value. And work on that improvement part, like, not only fixing things that don't work well, but, to taking something good and going through a transformation process and ending up with a product that is going to meet the need and make the life of people better. So I want to focus more on this solution development part, to call it like this.
So, do you think that your JEE experience make you reevaluate what you want to do in the future?
Definitely. So I already told you about how my career path was like totally different before going to Brussels. That's one thing. And the second thing is the fact that, I think I have this need or desire to improve things back from my junior enterprise. And that's when, you're doing the building, you're building the house, to put it like this. So when you're in a junior enterprise, when in your confederation or in the headquarters, you want to put bricks to the house to make it better, to make it more solid, and to make it better for the next people coming after you, because you leave the network at some point, but you want to leave something good behind you for the rest of the people. So I think I have this mindset and this desire to, add bricks and make everything more better, more solid since back then. And I see it reflected also in my next career goals that I have right now.
For example, would you recommend junior enterprises services to your own network? If you heard someone saying that needs a type of service that that junior enterprises can provide?
I feel this is like a trick question for alumni, but of course I would. And leaving the joke aside, of course I would, because I mean, I've been a part of the network and I know the level of dedication and the level of quality those people can bring to the work. And I know that if I give my project to a junior enterprise, they are certainly going to care about doing a good work, and they're going to approach it very professionally and actually give their best, as opposed to if I may just give it to a company that has 50 other projects and maybe they don't care so much. So this would be some of the highlights I would really consider when recommending a junior enterprise.
How do you plan to give back to the JEE network?
So I think the most important things, and Elizabeth is smiling because she already knows the kind of things that I'm doing. So what I've tried to do after I finished my work in the network is generally try to be a good alumni. And I know we're going to have a section there. I'm not going to go into many details, but generally try to help the people that are behind you, to be there for them when they need you. And now I'm concretely part of the JEE Council, like a council of alumni that's supporting the current board in their activities and any help that they need. And basically being there and having an open door for anyone from the network that needs my help, personally or professionally.
Now we have here our final questions related with your future perspectives. According to you, what are the strengths of a future junior entrepreneur in the labor market?
So I think I'm going to give a very short answer here because I think we've discussed about it a lot. But I definitely think that the entrepreneurial part, the entrepreneurial mindset is the key, and the entrepreneurial skills. And as I was also saying, like, even if you have your own business or you work in a company, this is definitely something that you need. Not all of us are going to be entrepreneurs after we go out to the network, and that's fine. What's important is wherever you go, to create change, to turn ideas into action, to make things happen, and to be proactive in the way you approach work. And I think this is something that junior entrepreneurs definitely have.
Thank you for all of your answers, Adriana. I think all of them were really clear. Now we are going to the tips and tricks part, and I will let Adriana being the owner of the session. Okay.
So I'm going to try to take not more than 15 minutes because I think that is most of what we have left. If you do have any questions throughout the session, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
If you have any questions through the sessions, let me know. Now, as watch out, this is like a super complex topic. And here in 15 minutes, I'm just going to try to offer you like, very simplified, very small nuggets of things that you can do. It's definitely not something overly complex. This can be easily be like, I don't know, half a day training at least. So bear with me through that, but do let me know if you want more details. The first thing that we need to think about is what's a crisis. So you have here some definition, a crisis is an event that is going to lead to an unstable and dangerous situation affecting something, straight out of Wikipedia definition. So basically a crisis is going to be a disruption. And the second definition that I see as very important is that the trend for some events are going to be determined for better or for worse. It's seen as a turning point. And I think that this is something we often disregard. And the element of novelty brought here is that a crisis doesn't always have bad consequences. Actually, in some cases, if you manage the crisis right, You can turn the impact from negative into positive, or you can even have positive risks, as we're going to see even further. A real life example is like how some companies reacted to the COVID-19 situation. Like some of the companies, behaved in a way that made them lose a lot of customers and, made people have a bad impression about them, while some of them actually emerged as victorious, gained more market share, got more loyal customers. So some of the companies actually, went out of this crisis with, some better results than they had before. And I'm going to focus on three things. What do we do and when? I want you to leave this meeting with three principles. The first principle is in times of peace, we prepare for war. And I'm saying this because the thing that I think is most underrated, at least what I've seen in junior enterprises, let's say, it's actually doing some sort of risk assessment and planning how to reply to something. You have this famous quote like, fail to plan is plan to fail. This basically means that if in times of peace you don't prepare for war, you're not going to know what you're going to do. So you're setting yourself up for failure. The second part is in times of war, we have a plan. And the plan should be to succeed. And what do we do after the war? After the war, we learned. We learned from what went well, what didn't go well, what happened there, and how are we going to do better in the future. So I'm going to focus on these three key aspects when it comes to crisis management, mostly on the preparation, because as I've mentioned, I think we're underestimating a bit the way we prepare for the worst case scenarios that might happen. And this is because we usually see it like as something super complex and something we don't have the time or we don't have the capacity to do it in a junior enterprise. And that's why we say it's like, we don't have enough time or manpower to do this. But there are some very simple things that you can do to prepare. So the best thing that you can do to prepare is to plan risk management. And I was talking before about some resources. Everything that you need to do a bit of risk management is brainstorming with your team and a bit of research. This is a very simple tool that we use in project management. It's called the risk register. And basically what you're going to do, you're going to have a meeting with a team. You're going to brainstorm about potential risks. Some steps here are first to identify risks. So you're going to brainstorm with everyone to see, okay, what could go wrong in this project? Then you're going to analyze risks. It's like, how bad is this going to affect us, or how probable is for this to happen? And then you're going to plan your risk responses. And you see here in the strategy of risk that it's an uncertain event. So basically risk equals uncertainty. And the other highlighted things that it can be either positive or negative. So let's start with the negative part, let's say. You can build this kind of table. It's called a risk register, and you can, as I said, you can do it very easy with your team and have a brainstorming about it. An example is, let's say you're organizing an event and the venue of the event is not going to be available anymore. Then you think about what's going to be the impact. So I usually grade it from 1 to 3, 1 being lowest, 3 the highest, like super simple. If the impact is high, you're going to give it a 3. Because of course, it's like, having the participants and having a venue is going to fuck up your event a lot. Talking about probability, how probable is this for this to happen? And here it's like this can vary. So let's say if you have a venue that you paid for, or it's an old type partner and you already have like a relationship with those people for many years, it's like the probability is going to be low, right? I mean, if you paid for a venue, what's the chances that they're going to call you and tell you, oh, hey, by the way, it's not available anymore. But if, oh, sorry. Wait. Then the probability might increase, like if you're getting a venue pro bono from, I don't know, someone that you didn't work with before and you're not paying anything for it and they just say they're going to give it with you because you know they like you, then the probability could be high that, or if, I don't know, I think we had a case like in the past, let's say that the hotel where you're going to organize your event is facing bankruptcy. So, or is liable for bankrupt, then the probability there is going to be high. Then what you do, you just multiply the impact and probability and it's going to give you the coefficient. What you want to do next is to actually sort your risks from the highest to the lowest. And in that way, you know what is like, you're going to put most of your resources and most of your effort on the risks that have the highest risk coefficient, right? That have the most impact and are most likely to happen. So you're going to put most of your planning and most of your resources there. Then you want to think about the impacted stakeholders as well, right? Like when that happens, communication is key. Like I won't go too much to that, but I think we all already know that when you're facing a crisis, communication is key. Who are impacted by the risk and who should you keep in the loop? Who should you look at? So you ideally also want to list some of your impacted stakeholders. You're going to want to communicate with your participants, with your partners and your speakers, for example, if you have a change in venue. And then when the crisis happens, you're just going to be like, you're going to be super stressed. I like to say you're going to be like a headless chicken. You're going to run from left to right, get panicked, don't know what to do. So that's why it's a good idea to describe before what you're going to do in case this happens. So if I lost my venue and I'm getting panicky and maybe I'm not going to be at my best decision making, I'm going to go back to this list and say, okay, what did I say I would do as corrective measures? For example, here is the example where we don't have the venue anymore. Okay, so I already have a list of venues prepared. I need to call these specific venues in this specific order. I already have the list. I already have the phone numbers. I'm going to go call these venues from this list one by one until I get the new venue. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to send a communication to all the stakeholders involved, informing them that we've had a change in venue. What I'm going to do to avoid this from happening as preventive measures. Of course, I'm going to want to make sure that, I'm going to keep the venue that I already have. And I'm going to take any measures to keep that. But in case it happens, I'm going to want to prepare in advance a list of potential venues and check the availability once in a while to make sure it's up to date. So I want to have this all in advance. If it happens, I'm just going to implement the corrective measure that we discussed about. And then when it comes to strategies, you have more strategies that you can use to deal with your risk. First, and the one that we use the most, are mitigation. Mitigation means that you're going to try to do stuff to reduce either the impact or the probability. So I'm either going to make sure that I make things to ensure that the impact is going to be as low as possible. For example, paying for a venue. Paying for the venue reduces probability. So you can reduce the impact by doing something altogether, or you can reduce your probability by taking measures. When you decide to avoid the risk, then you're going to want to, it's like in this scenario, you're not even doing it anymore. Oh, I'm worried about the fact that I'm not going to have a venue. This would be a high impact and would have a high probability. I'm going to avoid it altogether and I'm going to do a virtual event. So this is an example of avoiding. Then you can transfer the risk. And here is like the super standard case of insurances. This is why you're getting an insurance. You're transferring the risk of something happening to someone else. And then you can escalate it. This is found more in the corporate environment, like going to your bosses to get some support. But in a junior enterprise, you're usually kind of your own boss, or your bosses are very close to you. Or you can either accept it, like us getting out of bed every morning, knowing that a car might hit us. It's a tacit acceptance of the risk, like, it can happen. I'm just going to accept it's going to happen, and I'm going to live with it. Again, some key things. Remember that you also need to plan for opportunities, not only for risks. And if we go back to this, let's say that an opportunity might be that I've heard my national government is giving grants, and my event might be, might be eligible for getting the grant. Then you're going to do the same. You're going to assess the impact. You're going to assess the probability. But when you think about the actions you're going to take, these kind of actions are going to be actions that you do in order to increase the probability, the likelihood of that thing happening. So you want to ensure that you increase the likelihood of you getting the grant and you capitalize on it. So as measures, it would be like research all previous projects that got this grant, get in touch with the local contact at the agency, and all the kind of steps that you do to actually try to make it happen. And of course, lack of planning means that you're not going to be able to reply in your best way to what's happening. And you're not going to be able to mitigate the impact on probability, or you're not going to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that you have. Another important thing, and I won't have time to go through too many details regarding to this, but what you need to know is that you always need to watch out your stakeholders. They are the most important. So my suggestion is to use two simple tools. Again, this is something that you can do in a brainstorming exercise with your team over a coffee, or I don't know, Coke and a pizza, whatever. Basically list all the stakeholders that are going to be impacted in your event. Participants, speakers, partners, vendors that are going to bring catering, everything, local communities if it's the case. Then you want to put them in the matrix, like based on how much power do they have over the event. And let's say participants have a lot of power over the event because they can make a lot of things go bad. And I know the local community might have least power regarding the event, and how important they are for you, or what's the level of interest actually that they have in the project. And then this is going to give you the priorities, like what are your top stakeholders, medium, and those that are not so relevant for your project maybe. And here you have like the simple strategies about, I think it's better if I show it here. Like you manage them. For those high priority, of course, you want to be very close to them. For ones that have low power but high interest, you want to keep them involved, but you're not going to pay as much attention to them as the ones in high priority, and so on and so forth. Then in times of war, basically we implement the plan. So it's super important to keep calm. It's super important to assign the owners for the actions and to communicate. A clear example, like the pandemic hit and you guys were supposed to have the spring conference. So what do you do when you kind of realize that it's going to get bad? Of course, first thing would be you want to send an email to the participants and to let them know you're on top of it. Like, you're not going to tell them up front, we already decided this, and this. But you want to tell them, like, look, we know the situation is bad. We're keeping a careful eye on the recommendations. We're carefully analyzing the situation. We'll surely get back to you whenever we have any news that is going to help you. So you want to communicate with them from the beginning, to let them know you're on top, make them feel comfortable, and then follow up with the rest of the things. You don't want to wait until you have a decision that might last 3 weeks, and the people are going to be wondering in the meantime. And super important, after the war, you really need to do the lessons learned part, because we often, we're so happy it finished and we can take a break, and it was fine and we had a successful event. But we don't invest so much in this after the war part, and this is going to be a loss for us and for the organization as well. So we want to have some lessons learned. What went well? I mean, we don't always need to discuss about, fuck-ups. We also want to discuss about what went well, because we want to do it again, right? So we want to know what are the best practices we're going to take out of this, and we're going to replicate in all the future events we're organizing. What didn't work well, and what would we do differently right now if we know what we know now? So if we'd have to do it over again, what would we do differently? And then how do we actually implement them? I mean, it's not enough to, do this brainstorming, have a flip chart, have all of this stuff written in the flip chart, and that's it. It's like, we finished our work. You need to think about how are you going to feed the lessons learned into your next activities. Am I going to write a handover book that I'm going to pass on to next generations? I'm going to implement some changes in the processes that I already have. So, because we're also discussing about, changes that you're going to do in your work in the future. How I'm going to improve what I already have to ensure that, it's going to get better. And this can be, doesn't need to be like only a book or something someone is going to change, but a real change in, this is how we did recruitment until now. This is how we're going to do recruitment from now and until something else happens. You ideally also want to make sure that you're feeding these lessons learned into your organization. So because the last slide is with questions, remember that you need to, in times of peace, you prepare for war. In times of war, you implement the plan. After the war, we learn. These are the 3 things that you need to do. And make sure you invest in the preparation part, preparing for war. I know it sounds complicated, but it's really a matter, it's like, keep it simple. Get your team together, order some pizzas, brainstorm, fill in that table. One important watch out, it's a live document. So don't just do it and leave it there, because things might change, right? Like the probability of an event happening might increase over time or might decrease over time. So put that there, make sure you pull it out at every status meeting that you have, keep it as a live document. And in that way, when shit hits the fan, you're going to have a plan and you're going to know what to do. So this was all from my side. I'm sorry, Margarita, for taking a bit more than I planned. But if you do have any questions, let me know. I'm going to make you a host again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is it okay now? Yeah, I see your screen.
Okay. Before going to the question part, can you give us just a final advice related with the professional and personal advices for junior entrepreneurs?
Yeah, this is a tough one, but trying to think about like the really big things. I would say always do your best. regardless of where you are, if you're in your junior enterprise, if you're in your confederation, if you're in Brussels, or if you're at your job in a company already or having your own business, do your best. Have an owner mindset. Again, even if you work in a company, if you're going to be the kind of employee that doesn't really care, that's not going to make you happy either. Because now you're a junior entrepreneur because you want to do great things. So if you're going to stop that mindset, we are losing a small part of yourself. So even if you're going to open up your own business, even if you're going to work in a company, do your best. Always remember your values and the mindset that you learned in a junior enterprise, and make it a lifestyle. Don't let it end once you go out of the network, but make this your lifestyle and approach whatever life throws at you like a junior entrepreneur, because you can have challenges in the personal life as well. So as long as you have that junior entrepreneur mindset that we're all so proud of, you're going to push through them. So really make it a lifestyle and approach personal and professional life with it.
It is really interesting, your perspective. I also like right now to invite junior entrepreneurs to start sharing some questions. We are going to have a final question for you, but since we have a small delay, I invite the junior entrepreneurs to start sharing questions in the chat, okay? So our final question is related with how to be a good alumni in organization and in a network.
I will start with the counterintuitive part. I mean, of course, you need to help the organization professionally, but also be there for them personally. And I've also told this to many expos or many teams of the organizations I've been a part of. Like, don't forget the human factor. Just genuinely be there for people when they need you, even if it's for a professional question, even if it's for personal challenge they're facing. Make sure to be there and to listen to the people. I think a good alumni tries to listen as much as they can to understand what's the reality. Because I can also say I've been out of the network for 6 years, right? So what was true for me 6 years back is not true anymore. Like, winter conference was called JEE spring meeting back then. And this is like a super small example, but many things change. You can't keep track of all the changes that happen in the network, and that's why you always must be willing to listen to understand what's the current reality of the organization. And I think in general, be there for them. Like, when they need help, when they have questions, when they have challenges, reply to their calls, reply to their emails, help in any way that you can. And of course, you make yourself available for them to help, because maybe someone won't reach you proactively, but it's enough to say, look, I'm here for you if you need me. And if they don't need you, that's fine. I think that's also part of being a good alumni. Because obviously you're going to have difference of opinions between you and all the 10 teams after you. And that's fine. I mean, people are always going to have a difference in opinion. And as a good alumni, you need to, share your expertise, share your thoughts, but accept the fact that, the decision isn't with you anymore. And keep supporting, regardless of what happens.
Thank you, Adriana. I think it was a really, really interesting interview and a moment of sharing your perspectives. Right now, I would like to invite the participants. This is the moment to ask questions and to share some feedback. So I invite all of you of sharing your feedback and also to share some questions that you have for Adriana. We already have some. So Adriana,
Okay.
the first question that we have here is from Julia, and she asked, do you have or have any particular method to ensure and improve all the work in junior enterprise?
Let me think. I think a very good method of improving the work in a junior enterprise. Here, I would have like a follow-up question if we're discussing about the work or the organization itself, but I'm going to briefly touch both points. So if I'm looking at the organization as a whole, I think one of the good methods to improve the organization is really make sure all your activities are linked to the strategy your organization has, your junior enterprise. Make sure the projects are linked there. Make sure all the work that you do is measured and that you have some targets and you know where do you need to improve. So basically in your strategy, you'd have some objectives, you'd have some targets that you want to meet. And you need to measure your work against those targets. And if you see that, some are not where they should be, then you need to really deep dive into it, see why they are not there, and improve those areas. Like it's down to the gritty work of seeing what went wrong and how can you improve it for the next years, let's say. When it comes to the project itself, I think you would apply this at a lower scale. So for each project that you want to do, you want to have some quality metrics, and you want to make sure it's in line with what you want to do. And I think a very good method of improving it, having these quality metrics. We have this concept of continuous improvement. It's also called Kaizen, for example, in some methodologies. This basically means you continuously improve what you do. So you have these quality metrics, you revise them, I don't know, once per month, let's say, or it depends on the scale of the project, but you revise them like more times. You see where you are, what's your current status against those metrics, and you're going to do the lessons learned exercise that I discussed about, and you're going to think about concrete ideas about how to improve things and fit them on the go into your project. Like, you don't need to wait for the project to end. You're just going to have from time to time learning lessons. You're going to see what went well, what went wrong, and you're going to move this into the next stage of your project. You want to do it more times throughout the life of a project.
Thank you, Adriana. We already have 2 more feedbacks. I think people really appreciate this session. They are really thankful for you sharing your insights and your experiences. We'll just wait a little bit more just to make sure that everyone has opportunity of sharing their questions. But I think people are really satisfied with this session. So Adriana, I think it is really nice to see that we are improving and that you are being really clear during the session, right?
I would just like to take this chance to also thank everyone who watched us, because it's like an investment of an hour and 15 minutes already. So thank you for everyone who attended and who had the patience to sit through it. And I really hope you'll take maybe just one idea and is going to help you in your work or in your life or wherever you need it.
Yeah, that's true. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I guess we can maybe conclude. So thank you so much to both of you for your dedication. Adriana, we are grateful that you are still following up on us as an organization and also on the JEE network. We wish you all the best in your professional adventure, of course, and also for your personal life too. And we're looking forward to hearing from you soon again in the Alumni Network. To the guys who are watching us, we hope you enjoyed this time together and took some great outputs, as Adriana said, of this live session. I personally really enjoyed when you, Adriana, reminded us that at the end it's all about the people we meet, and also to find a balance between both aspects of this experience, the personal one and the professional. And to everyone who will watch this video also maybe later, you can also tell us in the comments below what was your favorite part, and you will be able to find a written version of the significance moments we found in the following days on our social media. And do not hesitate either to contact us if you need anything regarding alumni to alumnimanagement@jeurenterprises.eu. And finally, you can also register to our seasonal newsletter and join our professional community on LinkedIn. The links are going to be shared in the description below. And see you soon in another JEur Enterprises Europe success stories. And bye-bye.
Thank you. All the best. Bye.